Glendale, Arizona. That was the stage for Super Bowl 57. The Eagles, a juggernaut. Many media experts told us this was all about Philadelphia. Could not believe the Eagles are only a 1-point favorite considering all of the hyperbole about Philadelphia's Jalen Hurts against Patrick Mahomes. The matchup, Chiefs and Eagles. We assume that since you're listening to a sports talk radio show that you probably watched the Super Bowl or listened to it, but you might have been distracted. Maybe you were at a party. And everyone knows if you go to a party, you don't get to actually pay attention to the game because people are talking and you're eating and you're distracted and things like that. So you might have missed some of it, but a classical ending to the Super Bowl as Harrison Buckner kicking a 27-yard field goal with less than 10 seconds left after Patrick Mahomes had rumbled and stumbled for a 26-yard quarterback keeper on a gimpy ankle. And the Chiefs get a 38-35 win over the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Kansas City winning the second Lombardi Trophy in the Mahomes-Andy Reid era. It was not without controversy. With less than 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, game tied at 35. I think you know where I'm going with this. Patrick Mahomes dropped back to pass. He throws an incomplete pass intended for Juju Smith-Schuster on 3rd and 8 from the Eagle 15-yard line. But wait a minute. Philadelphia defensive back James Bradbury was called for holding. And just like that, new life for the Chiefs, and they were able to run the clock down to the final 8 seconds and then kick the game-winning field goal. So let us discuss, did the officials spoil Super Bowl 57? So I am going nope is what I'm going with. Nope. I do not agree that they spoiled the Super Bowl. I've got biblical story, steering wheel, and Gilligan's Island. And we will tie all of these random things together, and we are going to make a bitterly broken and defeated cheesesteak is what we're going to make. So, many Eagle fans are convinced that the holding penalty that was called on James Bradbury was not just ticky-tack. It was wrong. It was verboten. You can't call that, and that sullied the game. Now, I disagree. Now, I might have some skin in the game. We did give out the Chiefs plus 1.5, which was what the line was the other day, but that play would not have mattered had the Philly defense done their job earlier. So when you go into the pool of reflection and you look at self-reflection, that holding penalty against James Bradbury happened a few plays after Patrick Mahomes, who had one healthy ankle and one messed up ankle, was able to run right through the middle, the guts of what is supposed to be a great Philadelphia defense for a 26-yard play. The Chiefs should never have been in the position to get the chip shot field goal in the first place. The Eagles never defensively can allow Mahomes to get that 26-yard run. What are you doing? All I heard was how amazing this defense was for Philadelphia in the hype before the game, this, that, and the other thing. But Mahomes led the Chiefs all the way down to the 17-yard line on that scramble on the final drive. And by the way, during the broadcast, the rules expert Mike Pereira said the penalty had to be called. And then after the game, Bradbury, the guy that did it, now maybe somebody from the NFL tapped him on the shoulder, but he pleaded guilty as charged. The guy that was called for the penalty, he didn't say it wasn't holding. He said the opposite. He said it was holding. He said, quote, "I tugged on the jersey." So it is a biblical story. You live by the yellow flag, you die by the yellow flag. And Bradbury had gotten away with one earlier. Conveniently, my friends from Philadelphia had forgotten about that or just decided that that was good officiating when the referees let a blatant hold call go against Juju Smith-Schuster. That was on a third down play in the first half that ended a Chiefs drive And if that call is made the way it should have been made, then Kansas City conceivably scores at that point. Now, page 2, who gets to wear the shame bell for the Eagles? They lose. Super Bowl 57 had a double-digit lead, second greatest choke job in Super Bowl history, next to the Atlanta Falcons, which will likely not be topped in our lifetime. But obviously, James Bradbury is at the front of the line when you look at the shame bell. And after that, after the defensive back Bradbury, we have to pass out dunce caps and shame bells to all of the defensive front of Philadelphia, the vaunted pass rush of the Eagles. Oh, they're so good, greatest since the Chicago Bears in the mid-'80s. Yeah, my ass. Those guys were behind the steering wheel, and they were driving the Eagle defensive front, the steering wheel there, driving the struggle bus when it mattered most, like throughout the game. Throughout the game. The Eagles, to put it in some context for you, if you were not paying attention, or maybe you're just in a drunken stupor after the game, the Eagles had 70 sacks in the regular season. 70 of them. But they could not muster a single sack of a hobbled and wobbled Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So either that is an amazing job by the Chiefs' offensive line, or it's complete incompetence by the Philadelphia Eagles that they got so full of themselves that, hey, we're the greatest defensive line, blah, 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 blah. Didn't get to them one time. Not one time. And then with the game tied late, that same defensive front in Philadelphia, what do? You saw it. I saw it. Yeah, they let Mahomes beat them with his legs, and he's got a bad leg. He's got a bad ankle. And the Chiefs end up getting the victory. And that 26-yard run was no help from the referees. That was all bad defense by Philly. Kansas City scored every time they had the ball in the second half. That is an abomination by the Philadelphia defense. But we'll blame the referees. And while we're at it, unpopular opinion, nobody else has this opinion, but Jalen Hurts, he has to swallow the bitter pill, the medicine, because while his final stat line was historic, most of that came in the first half. He did not finish the game strong either. You got to finish what you start. And Jalen Hurts in the first half, amazing. It was great football in the first half, had a touchdown pass, had a couple of touchdown runs. He was averaging 5.7 yards per carry, passing for a bunch of yards. And then in the second half, how did he end the game? Don't ask. Don't ask. Jalen Hurts went out there and had a couple of boo-boos. Now, he also had the fumble in the first half, which was a big keep the Chiefs in the game moment there, the scoop and score for the Kansas City defense. But Jalen Hurts in the second half, 10 of 16 for 121 yards, no touchdown passes, and a passer rating of 85.6. But more importantly, he could not run the ball effectively in the second half, as I believe he ran the ball only 4 times in the second half for a total of 7 yards. He did have a rushing touchdown, but not a dominant second half performance by Jalen Hurts. And Kansas City, they were cooking it up, and they had a 5-course meal on the table, and Philadelphia unable to make plays. They were playing from ahead, but they played skittish in the second half, they being the Eagles. All right, last word here. So take 3 steps back here and look at the wide-angle lens on Super Bowl 57, the biggest showcase for pro football, and on the MALLER report card, the most important report card of them all, the Eagles blowing the Super Bowl against Kansas City, a thriller in the desert, gets an A+ on the MALLER report card. That's an A+. Had a little bit of everything. And my note, my little note for the Super Bowl is there's nothing that I would want to change. Great game. And as you know, I am Benny Brightside, Mr. Sunshine and Lollipops and all that, as I do positive sports radio. We had a little bit of everything. We had the controversy at the end. The Eagles looked like they were going to pull a Harvard boat race and lead from beginning to end. It appeared at one point that Patrick Mahomes was going to fade away, and that would be that, and he was going to leave the game in the second half, and the Eagles would win by 21 points. But it certainly looked like Philly was going to lead wire to wire, and at halftime was not very optimistic about Kansas City. But in the end, for the Eagles, it turned out to be, instead of a Harvard boat race, a Gilligan's Island-like journey. Just sit right back and you hear a tale of a fateful trip. These passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour. And they ended up stranded by the fourth quarter there. The weather started getting rough, and the Eagles, they set ground on the shore of Loser Island. Castaways. They were ready to anoint Jalen Hurts as the next big thing in the NFL. And Nick Sirianni, oh my God, this guy's a genius on the sidelines. He's so good. And then they're losers. They lost the game. They lost the game, and so now they'll have to go back to the drawing board and start all over next NFL season.